Star Wars only. I don't know what the fuck your problem is.
So I don't know if any of you have actually been on the Rise of Resistance ride. It's at Disney World, it's at Disneyland, it's in Galaxy's Edge at both of those parks. And it's a pretty great ride. It's not even a ride per se, it's more of an immersive experience, if you will. Smuggler's Run is more of a ride, and that was also a really fun thing to be on. I really enjoy Galaxy's Edge for what it is, but this isn't a review about Galaxy's Edge. There's a lot of people who will probably question, has George Lucas been on these rides? Well, I'm here to tell you, yes, he has. He rode the Smuggler's Run in Disneyland when that opened, I believe, but I know for a fact that he rode Rise of the Resistance in Disney World. And the story behind it's kind of funny because the people who were loading everything up, there's certain scenes that happened, and one of them is where, spoiler alert by the way, if you don't want spoilers to the ride, you're put into an interrogation cell, and the entire area was cleared. I mean, they basically stopped the entire ride, of course, for George Lucas. And so when he was entering the ride, he was surrounded by a bunch of security guards who were like 6'5", really tall black dudes who were just buff as all can be, of course, and protecting George, being a security guard as they would be. And there's this little white dude with white hair, and it's George Lucas walking around. And they do the whole ride for him. They give him the spiel of what everything's going to be like on the ride, and he rides the ride, and he doesn't like it. He doesn't dislike it, of course, but he's just kind of unenthusiastic about the situation. He kind of shrugs it off, is what I was told, and I think that's almost comical, because George is an introvert. He's not one of those guys who puts forth a lot of emotion, but it is kind of disappointing as well to know that he doesn't really care much for the Rise of Resistance ride. There's few reasons to this. Maybe he was just not entertained with the story or what happened in the ride, or maybe he looked at it and was like, well, these aren't my characters, this isn't the world that I feel like I created. It's just kind of generic, if you will. Maybe that's how he feels. I didn't get a specific comment on what he said, but I do know that he appeared very disappointed with the ride and just wasn't overly happy with how everything's transpired when he went through it. He just kind of entered it kind of like nonchalantly, and then he actually rode the ride, and when he got off the ride, he also just did not care. And I wish I was there, man. I wish I could have seen his face. Not only just to see the man in person and meet him, but also just to kind of see his reaction to the ride, because I do think it would have been a funny experience to see George Lucas enter the ride and then leave and be like, it was okay, it was a ride. I didn't make it, so it wasn't that good. Just kind of, that would have been funny. But yeah, Lucas has been to Galaxy's Edge in both locations, the one in Disneyland and the one in Disney World. The Galaxy's Edge is a really immersive Star Wars theme park. I like it personally. I wish it was bigger. I wish it was more expansive on what it showed, not just the original trilogy stuff, but also the prequel trilogy stuff, because it only shows the sequel trilogy stuff with a little bit of original trilogy mixed in, with like maybe one or two things that I can think of from the prequel trilogy. But it's still a fun place to be. I feel like it's better to go in when no one else is there, like there's no other like tourists around or people who are experiencing the park. So maybe if you do like the after hours that Disney offers or something like that, that's cool. Today they were actually filming a commercial over there in the one in Orlando, the Disney World park. They were filming a commercial early morning, but I do think that the parks they're fun. They're fun to walk around. There's just not a lot to do in terms of rides. There's the Smuggler's Run, and then there's Rise of Resistance, and that's really it. Everything else is just an immersive experience, and so I really wish I could have gotten more confirmation about what George did throughout the park and what all he saw and what all his thoughts were about the entire experience. But so far, all I know is that George Lucas has ridden Rise of Resistance, and he wasn't overly enthusiastic or impressed about the ride, which is a bummer, because when I wrote it, I had a few jaw-dropping moments where I was like, wow, how did they do that? How did they pull that off? This looks so great. I'm not even a big sequel trilogy fan, but I was still extremely impressed with what they did. And, George is George. He like I said, is not one to put out a lot of emotion, but yeah, he was not entirely taken aback by the Rise of Resistance. But have you ridden Star Wars Rise of Resistance over there at Disneyland or Disney World and Galaxy's Edge? Have you ridden it? Did you like it? If not, tell me why. Tell me what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. I don't I'm cautious to call it a ride because it is more of an immersive story. It's more of an immersive experience, but I enjoyed almost every minute of it. I thought it was really well done, and I would definitely ride it again. Smuggler's Run is also fun, but I just wanted to tell you that I got some information about George Lucas riding the ride and was not overly happy about it, and I just thought it was a fun little story to share about the man who created Star Wars and how he looks at some of the new stuff like Rise of Resistance. So tell me your thoughts below about George Lucas not being overly enthusiastic about Rise of the Resistance. He wasn't entirely impressed with it. I'd love to hear your thoughts below if you've ridden it, if not, and just tell me your thoughts about Galaxy's Edge and the whole. See you all next time. I'm Star Wars Only. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and may the Force be with you always.